Hello and good morning. Happy Friday, gamers. Welcome to this week's new episode of Breakfast with Boom. I am your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. Folks, we have a loaded panel here today. Two bombastic topics that are going to keep us here at least 90 minutes. And of course, opening salvo, ladies and gentlemen, we have confirmation from Rockstar Games. And we all thought this was going to happen. And guess what, folks? It has happened. Grand Theft Auto 6 has been delayed an entire year. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, a year and 25 days, almost 13 months, because it is not coming out until May 26th of 2026. That is a bomb of an announcement. And I'm going to be honest with you. Fuzzy Belvedere had sent me what was the presser, and I first saw it and I was like, that's just bullshit. That's a lie. That looks like that was made by some 12-year-old on their pewter, right? And it actually wound up being for real, and I was like, oh wow, that's how you announced it, huh? Okay, I guess. And ultimately, we don't know who has the marketing rights still. That's still up in the air. We don't know if it's Sony really paid for it, and they were going to have to pay to get it, or it's going to be some sort of a shared type of deal like Xbox had with Sony before the marketing rights contract expired last year with Call of Duty, where you saw it on both their channels and they were able to do their thing and sell their brand, and it was great. I think it's in Rockstar's best interest to leave it open for everyone, of course, but that's me just maybe being a bot. I would like to see Xbox get the marketing on that. I think it'd be big. Second topic of the day, folks, is one that I'm still struggling with. Yesterday, it was announced that Xbox was getting a price increase across the board on everything. I think it is the boob move of the year for Microsoft. I will get into why I have a bunch of smoke for them for this. And a lot of people on the panel are pretty upset. You're gonna see and hear some things today, folks, that might ruffle some feathers, but you know what? It's coming from a good place, and it's coming from a place of consumerism. Yes, we're all fans. My brand is Xbox first, Switch second, PlayStation third. That's how I roll. Now, that's not how you roll. Everyone has a different, pattern or likes or dislikes, and that's great. Some people hate Xbox and will never buy one. Okay, not a problem. But everything that we're going to talk about here is going to be from the heart. It is going to be from a consumer's point of view, which it should always be a consumer point of view, because you are a consumer at the end of the day, regardless of what fan you are. But let's get everybody in here. Welcome in, everybody. We already got almost 200 people here. Lots of new names I'm seeing in the chat, which is awesome. If you are finding the channel for the first time, folks, Mrs. Boom and I are 109 subscribers away from 16K. Can we hit that today? I sure hope so. It would be pretty dope to do that live on the air. We've done that for so many other smaller creators. And Mrs. Boom and I really strive to help out as many people as we can. We normally don't ask for anything, folks. But I am asking today that if you're not subbed, please consider helping us cross that threshold. Because to get to, you got to understand, we have some really big connections, and we have been recognized by Bethesda, by Microsoft, by Xbox, several other publishers as well as companies. And the more that we grow, the more opportunities are presented to us. And getting in the door is a really big deal, considering that this started out as a hobby for me all the way back in 2017. Like, I remember I'm a retired police officer. What the hell do I know about content creation? And I learned on the go, and I've built this thing called Double Barrel Gaming from the scraps of not having any knowledge whatsoever. And I'm super proud of it. So the more that we do get invited to these events, the more, emails that we get on being able to review games, it's kind of a really big deal. And the more we grow, and, through subs, through views, and it's just going to help us, get into more places. You can help us get there. But Crispy Bomb, good morning, kind sir. You are not normally here on Friday mornings, but here you are. We're happy to have you here. You were on Tuesdays, Xbox Factor podcast. We got some big news to get into. How you feeling, brother? Good morning.
Oh man, This week has been a wild week. I'll tell you what, and I think every gamer in the chat right now is feeling the same way as me. Like, what world are we living in? Like, do you not understand that you had goodwill and you just squashed it, Xbox?
Yep.
And do you not understand, GTA, that you waited too long and now I mean, now there's a lot of egg on the face of some people that said, like a day ago, oh, I bought a PS5 Pro to play GTA 6. Oh, now you're going to wait a year for it. So good on you, buddy. But we're going to get into it because it's not only a mind boggling conversation on both fronts, but also one that I feel like could have been avoided. But we're going to get to it.
Well said. We'll get into who actually made that quote and did his declaration of independence for PlayStation in a second. But Silent Cipher, my brother, how you feeling, man? Welcome back. Glad that you're here, folks. He's a little under the weather, so if his voice sounds a little rough, I don't think it does, but he's very sensitive about that. Best voice in the business. Obviously, he has done Halo work. And they did the casting call, which was dope. I know you guys are doing a round 2 on that. How you feeling, Silent?
I'm doing okay. Like you said, a little bit under the weather, so bear with me, guys. But it's great to be hanging out with Fuzzy, Korkenstein, and Crispy, and yourself, of course, Boom.
Thank you, kind sir.
Interesting week that we've had, and it'll be interesting to chop it up with you guys and see where everyone lands on this. I think there'll be a general consensus, but yeah, I'd say as fans, we should all rightfully be a little bit annoyed at least at this point in time. But it's great to see everyone chat, and let's get into it.
Absolutely. Korkenstein, what's going on? Best beard in the business, ladies and gentlemen. I think you can go toe to toe with Hargeet Chani. What's going on, brother? How you feeling?
That's very awesome of you to say. I think he has an amazing beard, so that's very high praise. I thank you. Yeah, man, doing good. I'm not as upset as everybody else is. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, brother. I can't wait to hear everyone's individual's opinion. Look, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
I am not abandoning the brand, but I have smoke for them. And I think ultimately why it stings more is I'll save what I have to say as my opening spiel.
We can save it. But yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I understand the reasoning why, I think, and hopefully I can tell that to you guys at a later.
You know what? We're ready to listen to it, brother, because obviously you're a big part of the show and your opinion matters, and I think it comes from a good place, and I cannot wait to hear it. Last but not least, in any way, the best bald head in the business. What's going on, Fuzzy Belvedere? How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. Just wanted to make sure I wasn't on mute, but glad to be here with you guys. Yeah, I've been off social media, so all of this stuff kind of at the last minute, I did the doom scroll on Twitter, and yeah, things are like, it's not the house is on fire, but there was like a lot of after having so many good weeks, it's like, what the heck? Are we in Bizarro world now? But yeah, we'll get into it. And I'm kind of in Korkenstein's camp. I'm not as mad, but I do have smoke for them. But I think this is the beginning of a lot of nonsense that's going to probably, taint our hobby. But we'll see.
We're definitely going to get into it. Shout out to Space Shot in the chat. He says there's no reason to light money on fire. And you know what? You are 1,000% correct, brother. Thanks so much for being here, as you always are. Listen, so let's open up with Grand Theft Auto. Folks, this is a game that has been in development since, from what we understand, 2013. Like literally when Grand Theft Auto 5 released, they started working on GTA 6. I would imagine that after what would be a dozen years, they have spent a lot of money. One of the big conversation pieces out of 2024, if you find folks remember, was that we had heard from several journalists, a few analysts, and a few knuckleheads on PlayStation that said $100 games would somehow right the wrongs of the industry. Well, folks, we're 2 shakes of a stick away from that. We saw during the Nintendo event, Nintendo, it's it's a bit mind-numbing for me personally, was the first one out the gate to raise games to $80, but the fact that they used the wording variable pricing really set the tone for what could be an industry-ending next couple of years. I think that you are going to see sales decline in the biggest way right now. And again, we'll talk about it on the back end of the show regarding Xbox Game Pass still being at $20. I would imagine that maybe next year it's going to go up, but I think that the announcement from Microsoft regarding the price increase is going to funnel people towards that service. But again, we'll cover that more on the back end of the show. Getting right back to Grand Theft Auto, it has been delayed. What I said in the opening of salvo of the show, 13 months. It has been confirmed by Rockstar Games, ladies and gentlemen, that it has been delayed until May 26th of 2026, which is obviously next year. So, of course, I do have the presser. Let me just find it again. Here it is right now. Again, I pulled this, so there's no shenanigans, and I wanted to make sure it was real because it did not look real. I said this to Fuzzy. Fuzzy had sent it in the DM, and I'm like, my God, that doesn't look real. Well, this is officially from the X account or the Twitter account of Rockstar Games. And I'm going to read the presser for you live on the air, ladies and gentlemen. So get ready. Here it goes. Grand Theft Auto 6 is now coming May 26th of 2026. And it says, we are very sorry that this is later than you expected. The interest and excitement surrounding the new Grand Theft Auto has been truly humbling for our entire team. We want to thank you for your support and your patience as we work to finish this game. With every game we have released, the goal has always been to try and exceed your expectations, and Grand Theft Auto 6 is no exception. We hope you understand that we need this extra time to deliver at the level of quality you expect and deserve. We look forward to sharing more information with you soon. Sincerely, Rockstar Games. Again, short, sweet, and to the point, ladies and gentlemen. The game has been delayed. There are some ramifications here, both in the positive side for games releasing this year from other platform holders and from other developers and publishers. We originally saw that early in the week, Borderlands 4 got moved out or moved forward to September. And we all thought, I think we were all fair for thinking it, that this was due to Grand Theft Auto releasing in that window. And of course, I'm sure that the industry as a whole is taking a giant sigh of release that there is a confirmed release date. And if that's not happening for the next 13 months. But Silent Cypher, I'm going to bring you in first here. This is, like I said, I really believe that this is a sigh of relief for lots of people in the industry. For me, one way or another, I'm not buying the game. This gives me an opportunity to save up my Microsoft points. So when this game does release, potentially at $100 to start, I at least won't be paying out of my pocket. I will be just paying with Microsoft points. I'm closing in on 200,000 as we speak. I actually had 300,000 and spent a little bit of it. Now I'm just in save mode. But let's get your thoughts on this, because when I said ramifications, and I did open up with the positive side of things, which is what we like to do here at Double Barrel Gaming, there's some negative conversation that is happening already. Now, of course, that negative conversation is going to put Sony at the center of it. And Sony was expected by many accounts and many people that I have spoken to, both publicly and privately. And the running rumor, and this is not a surprise, people have talked about this. This is no breaking NDAs, that it is expected that Sony is going to have the marketing rights. This would not be a surprise at all. They are one of the world's most recognizable brands. Sony has had the marketing rights before. I would not be surprised if they did drop the bag, and the reason why, and I know there's going to be some people in the chat that say, oh, they can't afford it. Actually, they can, and here's why. For many, many years since the Xbox One release, the marketing rights were then picked up by Sony in 2014 for Call of Duty. Now they don't have to pay that money for the Call of Duty marketing because Xbox owns it, and they are going to run with it. But last year was a little bit different because last year it did not expire, the contract that Sony had with Call of Duty, until 12/31/2024. The strike, the hand went to midnight. We get 2025. Now all marketing goes back to Microsoft and Xbox. So Sony now has this big bag of money, and I'm sure they had to add more to the coffers because it is Grand Theft Auto, but it makes sense for them to do it. Now, again, I don't know this for sure. This is just my pure speculation, but here's the thing. If they did have the marketing, I'm sure that they have been working their asses off since the beginning of this year for what is expected to be one of the biggest marketing blitzes on PlayStation ever with Grand Theft Auto. I think it'd be bigger than any of their own first parties. And now that's not happening. Now, again, folks, it's speculation. I don't know if they've been working on it, but it makes sense that they were getting ready to potentially push. I don't know if bundled. I don't know about so much about that, but you know how Sony does their work. They would have let everyone know that Grand Theft Auto was on their box, and maybe even with some extra goodies, because that's just what they do. That's not going to happen now. So let's get your thoughts on the delay there, Silent Cypher, both positive and negative.
Yeah. Of course, as gamers, and as we've seen for the last few years, if a game gets delayed, it's not a bad thing generally. So if they need more time, good. It is what it is. I'm annoyed ultimately, and we've talked about this before, but don't put a date out there for me if you're not going to be able to reach your date. I know that you have people that you have to answer to, stakeholders and stuff, but I really don't care. I'm the customer, and it annoys me. And as a customer, I have the right to be a bit of a Karen sometimes. And so the way I see it is like, if you can't hit your dates, don't put a date out there. I'm not going to put a date out there that's unrealistic for my personal work because I don't want to get to that date and look like an idiot. So I would expect you as professionals not to do the same type of stuff. But it happens across the industry. And again, we know why, but I just wish we could get away from that. It's just like, until you are rock solid on that date, don't say anything. Just leave it be the way it is. Now, I do have to say, I love the fact, now granted, we're going to see it delayed on Xbox side of things too. But I love the fact that all those people out there that have just been chanting, the PS5 Pro mantra, like, oh, it's going to be the best place to play. Suckers, you're going to be waiting just as long now. And you bought hardware that was already outdated and overpriced. And now you get to wait longer for it to come out, and it's going to be even more outdated and overpriced. As this gets delayed further out, more games are going to come out, and it's going to continue to look less and less impressive compared to other games. So that investment that you put out there on that hardware, not really working out for you right now, especially given the specs and the details we've seen on the games that have run on that system prior. We know that it's not setting the world on fire as far as upgrades. So it's interesting to see the timing of it. I'm happy to see a couple people in the media side of things getting eggs on the face for really poorly timed comments about buying a PlayStation. Just because you bought the other system doesn't mean that it's going to get delayed. Like, you can sit back down, put your big boy pants on, and start being less of a turd online. I think in general, if some of the media would just stop doing some of this, it'd just be a better situation in general. But back to GTA. Yeah, I had no expectation that that game was ever going to come out this year. I think when we first got the heads up that it was coming out this year, I was like, right. So add the Rockstar tax, which is about 6 months to a year or more, and that's the actual release date we'll get for this game. And that's kind of falling right in line with what I was expecting. Um, Again, I look forward to it. If they need more time, cool. It is what it is. Uh, but don't put dates out there, and just focus on making the game. Get it out there so we can enjoy it, whatever system you end up playing it on. But yeah, just I don't know. There's a lot of people out there championing one brand versus another on this thing, and it's like we're all going to get affected by this delay. Just sit down, play some other games, get over it.
Well, because we normally don't name the names here, but for context, folks, we gotta bring in who actually said what he said. Ryan McCaffrey of IGN, who has on occasion or two put his foot in his mouth for certain things. Blasted Microsoft, as I believe anyone should, regarding the price increase. And you know what? He's a journalist. He works for IGN. He does have and is the voice of an Xbox podcast, like I am, and many people on this panel. And I believe that was the right call. Putting Microsoft on blast, giving them the smoke, and letting them know that as a consumer, you don't like this stuff. That's the right thing to do, folks. Now, again, is it going to affect everybody the same way? It's not. And I'll break down why it personally affects me and why I'm a bit annoyed. But it's his second tweet that kind of, I don't know why these guys do this. Like, to me, it's like you are screaming for someone to look at you. And I don't think he needs to do that personally. He's well known enough. And he has done some things that have been questionable in the past. And I think this is one of those things again. And again, it just really aged super poorly in about 10 hours. So yesterday, Ryan McCaffrey of IGN writes this: Microsoft's price hike inspired me to go out and buy a console today. And on his table is the PlayStation 5 Pro. And in parentheses, he says, as I've said on podcasts, I've already planned to do this as I want the best day one GTA experience. And since I'll now be shocked if Sony doesn't raise the Pro to $800 soon, I decided to act now. And of course, he bought the console for Grand Theft Auto that was releasing this year, and now it's not. So it's one of those tweets that I hope he deletes because it's aged poorly, and it is what it is. And interestingly enough, I'm not a tech guy, folks, right? So I will never lead a conversation on tech. I will ask the questions. So we were talking, and I say we, Keasante and I, this morning about the PlayStation 5 Pro suspiciously always being compared not to the Series X, but to the PlayStation 5, which, of course, by power ratio is 40% better, right? Which is that's a big jump. So if you are a PlayStation only gamer, of course you want to get a Pro. And I would say if you want to get a Pro, you better get it now because Sony is going to raise their price, and I think that's happening soon. But interestingly enough, he talks about power, and he wants the best place to play Grand Theft Auto, which is not PC because it's releasing on console only first, right? Well, I didn't know this because, like I said, I'm not a tech guy. Did you find folks know that by the number ratio of the PlayStation 5 Pro to the Xbox Series X, which is a console that's 5 years old, is only a bump in power by 3%. That is blades of grass that we're talking about, folks. Now, I understand, again, we're going to get into the smoke from Microsoft for raising the price of the Series X, upwards of $730 for the 2 terabyte, which is effing ridiculous. But Sony's going to raise their price to well over $800 for the Pro. That's happening soon. When it happens, we'll see if the same rah-rah people get out on social media and give smoke. I don't think they will. They're a bunch of cowards, but it's fine. Crispy Bomb, let's bring you in, and let's talk about Grand Theft Auto 6's delay. I think that if I'm right with Sony having marketing because it's Sony, man. You just got to expect them to look at this and just be salivating. Of course, they're going to get the marketing rights. It makes too much sense. If they did, they were planning big. Mind you, you got to remember, they only have one game coming out this year from first party, and it looks dope. I'm not going to front. I'm day one there. Ghost of Yotai, day one. There's not even a question. But they only have one game, and I'm sure that they were banking on Grand Theft Auto as being the one that's going to sell the most consoles for them. That's not happening now. Let's get your thoughts, man.
Oh man, like that's been the thing, right? Like that's been the selling point of the Pro right now. Like, oh, you want to play GTA 6 the best way? That's how you do it. And sorry, Ryan, but I mean, I love the egg on your face, bro. Like it's too much. Like you ask for it all the time and you get it. And it's not from the community. It's from the company themselves. GTA is like, you know what? We got to delay this. The day after you do that. It's hilarious. It's mind-boggling why people put themselves in that type of position. Like, look, like, yeah, the Pro is comparable with the Series X. I mean, if you've watched enough videos and you do enough research, you know that the Series X has been the best console for a while now until the Pro came out. And it's exactly the way we felt when we bought a 1X, correct? I mean, anybody that bought a 1X, we're like, oh, wow, they're actually like upgrading the games we love. For me, it was Gears, okay? And yes, I played at a higher resolution, but you couldn't compare with PlayStation. And the same goes for like games like God of War and stuff like that. Yes, it plays great on the Pro. That does not mean, and we learned this, and look, I could have egg on my face too 5-6 years ago defending the 1X, but at the same time, we have learned that a lot of these other devs are not necessarily going to use your tools that you have provided. And they're going to say, we're going to make a broad spectrum and we're going to make it for consoles and PC and everything else. And if you allow certain things to happen, you allow them, but we're going to do it at our own pace. And I think Xbox has learned this and said, look, like if we have a console that's powerful enough already, at the least take a loss in some way at first or be at cost and continue this development cycle within said console and then help these devs get to where they want them to be as far as making visually fidelity high games. And also, I mean, how many times we talked about the FPS? Like, you know, I don't hear nothing about that, the FPS for Pro. I don't. And so then you look at GTA 6, what is the actual thought process in delaying it? Was it even ready yet anyway? And they just gave a broad spectrum and then said, nope, we're gonna go to the year later. But an entire year in announcing it right now, and right after all of this bad news, it's like, okay, let's just get the bad news out. Let's just do it. You know, we're not a podcast, and I think I can speak for everyone that is going to hate a game being delayed, especially as one that is supposedly as monumental as GTA 6. At the same time, I'm not a huge GTA fan anymore. I was when I played 3 and 4 and San Andreas and Vice City and all those, but it became redundant to me. So I never played 5. Now, will I jump into 6? I don't know yet. But now we're looking at, you know, like, are they waiting to see if they can go $100 for just the standard edition, go $200 for maybe you know, like, you know, extras in the online service and all that, and then maybe like $300, like basically buying what was a Series S. and saying, okay, you get like a statue or something like that. Like, we don't know what they're planning, because at the end of the day, I mean, think about what Boom said. 2013 is supposedly, like, as soon as they released 5, they started developing on 6. So how many years is that? This is where we can respect delays, but it comes to a point in time. It's like, is this strategic, or is this, okay, like, we can make this game super polished? It's one or the other. Because at this point, like, you should have came out with this a long time ago. And we usually, like, you get over 5-6 years, you start saying, okay, where's the next iteration? Because this is getting a little ridiculous. And we are way beyond that. So I wonder, and this is where, like, I agree, like, maybe probably Sony could have the marketing rights. I understand that. But at the same time, what do you think the pushback is from them when they only have Ghost of Yotai right now? I feel like, I don't know if they have the marketing rights, because why would they not have any say, or at least, like, like, hey, like, we need this game this year to sell our consoles. You know what I mean? So where are they at? Like, it's a little weird. And that's where I say, like, imagine if, like, the June showcase with Xbox, there's marketing rights to GTA 6. And then maybe during the Game Awards, they announce some new consoles. You know what I mean? Like, those are possibilities, because we've seen them before, just in different timelines and stuff like that. So I say, be cautious in thinking that it's, they might not give anybody marketing rights. That might be what it is. And I'll be honest with you, because at the end of the day, like, this is their biggest game they've ever released. I mean, think about the development time. Think about the cost. Like, I think, like, the last time I saw Strauss was $1 billion easy they spent on this game. $1 billion easy. And that's where I say, like, they might want to get all the bread they can, but by delaying, they say, okay, let's see how the market reacts before we release our game. And I really believe that that's probably their thought process, because maybe they didn't know. They probably did know that Xbox was going to do this, but maybe they didn't. And maybe this happened, and they're like, you know what? We need to delay this, because we can't price ourselves out of selling 20 million copies or something like that. We have to be mindful, and we have to figure out where everybody's going to lie at the end of the year. You know what I mean? So then they go to next year. And then I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't think that's the date either. I really don't. I think if it's going to get moved back, it's going to get moved back. And then everybody's going to deal with it, because all they want is that new GTA experience. Now, me, like, it is going to be completely new. So, maybe I do spend $100, but I also have other things that subsidize me actually going and saying, you know what, I will actually play this game. But at the same time, like, you would think they would want to release it sooner than later, because, I mean, Take-Two, they love their microtransactions. So, like, as time develops, like, you add that extra cost on the front end, you're not necessarily going to get it on the back end. And then on top of that, people might be turned off if you add all of these other microtransactions, which they could absolutely possibly do. So I think, they're trying to, like, let the market do its thing. And I think doing that announcement right after Xbox, it just seems a little weird. And I'm going to leave it at that.
Again, it's a fair point. You know what I haven't seen, Korkenstein, which is shocking to me, because this is almost like a default. Goddamn Series S, you caused the delay, because it's only a matter of time before you hear it. There's going to be somebody. There's going to be your regular journal that is anti-Xbox, and be like, you see, I talk to different people. Let's get your thoughts on the delay, brother. How bad or good is this for the industry, Korkenstein?
I mean, like, like I said, it's kind of a good thing and bad thing. I think Silent mentioned it as well. you never know. Now that people know, and honestly, I'm with Crispy. I don't think Maze. I think it's going to hit another delay. I mean, like I said, you could look up the definition of delay in the dictionary, and it's a Rockstar logo.
You're not
It's
wrong.
just,
You're not
it's just
wrong.
that's just what it is. They're known for. But I mean, also coming from the other side of a developer side, it makes sense. Like the one thing, stories already done, characters have already done, all of that stuff. Probably art assets are already done. What they're probably struggling with right now is probably the tech side of it. Rockstar is known for their um very large worlds, but they're immersive worlds. Things where there's things happening in the city constantly that are changing how the game kind of plays for the player. Things like that. While if you've ever played GTA 5, you've seen where you can switch to different characters and they're actually living a life outside of what your other character is doing, that kind of stuff. So they're probably hitting a lot of technical. They're probably trying to get graphics up to snuff. And it's like I said, I think it's a good thing because we do want the best version. I'm always pro delay. It sucks for me as a gamer, as a consumer, but on the other side, I understand. I know what they're trying to do. And to be honest, GTA Online prints money. They literally can take another 2 years or 3 years if they want, and I don't think Rockstar would really get that hurt. They did, though. I am seeing reports, though, they are getting hit pretty hard by this delay. I think their share price fell like 8%. So yeah, it's a bad thing for them. But I mean, once it releases, that'll probably go up, double. So it'll probably go up 16% once GTA. So it's not a big loss. They're going to take that hit early, but it's going to pay off in the end eventually. It's just got to wait. I think it's hilarious. I called it out as well. I'm going to preface it like this. Ryan McCaffrey, he's a good dude. He really is. He doesn't mean any malice, and I know he's the IGN Xbox guy. But like most people at IGN, they don't know shit. And I'm just going to be straight up honest. They're very misinformed.
Yep.
They tunnel vision themselves into. I mean, of course, a lot of it too. They're bankrolled a little bit by PlayStation. They're very heavily PlayStation very heavily pays marketing to them to push their games and stuff like that. Not in a nefarious way. It's all legit. I'm not saying PlayStation's paying them
they get bankrolled
push
by
bad narratives.
Sony Interactive Entertainment. That's a fact. That's a absolute fact.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's nefarious that they're doing it to say, hey, push good articles out. No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying, though, is, when it comes to marketing, PlayStation really heavily invests in media and things like that. Not just IGN, but everywhere to push their games out to get a broader, audience. That's just the business. But they are very kind of PlayStation skewed, I feel like, and a lot of them don't really have an understanding of what the industry is. And it was just a really bad tweet, and it's it's kind of on par for him, sadly, and it sucks because he really is a good dude. I just think he's just very misinformed, and the tweet came off very poorly. I'm buying it now because I want the best version to play, and it's like you're not. If they're delaying right now, you're probably not going to see the PlayStation Pro enhanced version you really think you are. It's not going to be this 4090, change where you're going to get full path tracing and ray tracing and at 60 frames, 120 frames per second. Honestly, you're probably going to get 30 frames with a little bit better ray tracing and probably, that's a little updated pixels you can't see unless you're, 10, a foot or two away from your monitor. If you're on a big 4K inch screen, you're not going to see the changes you think you're going to see. And that's the big thing. I mean, with the PlayStation Pro, it's the 5. It's ridiculous. It's a shit console. I'm not gonna compared to what you get from the previous iteration. It's not a great console. It barely minimum. Not enough developers are gonna buy into it. You remember, people, developers now have to do extra work to utilize those features. This is why the DualSense 4, hardly anybody utilizes more than the haptic feedback. barely anybody. They don't use the little stupid breath thing. They don't, a lot of them don't use the gyroscope. A lot of them don't because it's so much extra development work, and you're kind of shoehorning your or your gamers or your developers to develop features and change their games to utilize. Not a lot are going to end up doing that. And it just doesn't make sense. And that's kind of what the PS5 Pro is. You're now saying, hey, cool, now we want you to do more. And unless you're going to bankroll those developers to spend the extra time and money and effort on the PS5 Pro enhanced version, a lot are just going to get the fuck out of here. Oh, sorry.
That's fine. Listen, we're all adults here, brother. It's early in the morning. Curse all you want. It's fine.
Yeah, I'm still waking up. I still have another two cups of coffee to go.
I love it.
But I mean, that's just what it is, and you're not, Ryan. I'm sorry, you're not going to get that version you think you're going to get, and I think you're going to end up being very severely disappointed. And if you really think, I mean, it is a smart move. I will give them credit. Buy now if you can, because the prices are only going to get worse. We'll talk more about it with Xbox and stuff like that, so I won't delve too far into that. But if you guys think that PlayStation isn't going to raise their prices globally, they've already done it twice in 1 year. They're going to do it again.
Yep.
Especially in the US, where majority of people have their stuff manufactured in China. It's you're going to get hit by the tariffs sooner or later, and that's just what's going to happen. So it is a smart move. Buy now. But for you saying it's going to be the best version, PC is always going to be the best version, sadly. And granted, I don't think it's going to be a day one release because, again, historically, Rockstar separates the releases. But I mean, who knows? I mean, now that the Xbox GDK makes it easier to develop just for one platform, because when you develop on the GDK, you're developing for PC, you're developing for Xbox at the same time. You don't have to make a separate SKU to develop. So maybe that might change Rockstar's mind. I mean, who knows? We'll see. But time will tell. But overall, it's good. Delay the game. Wait till it's in the shape that you want it to be in. As a consumer and gamer, I'm very disappointed because I'm replaying 5 right now, and it is a great game, and
it's brilliant.
Is right.
It really is just a brilliant game. I mean, the characters are so oddly different, and when they get together, if you listen to the dialogue, a game as old as H, but it's a brilliant game that came out 12 years ago, and you could pick it up today, which I'm sure everybody has at least 5 copies of it. I'm telling you right now, check your couch, ladies and gentlemen. There is a sealed copy in there somewhere. I'm telling you. You didn't know it's there, but it's there.
And yeah, Crispy's right. It is a little bit more of the same thing, but I mean, it's also different because of, like I said, the characters, the narratives. I mean, fundamentally, it's a Grand Theft Auto game and how it plays, but just what really separates it is that narrative, is the characters, is how the world reacts to the player, that kind of stuff. So, I think it's good, and I can't wait to play it. But it's going to have to be until I'm going to guess it's probably going to get pushed to October 2026, October or November, probably 2026 is probably a more realistic date.
Holiday, perfect timing.
Yeah.
Perfect timing. Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see. Fuzzy Belvedere, let's get your hot take on this, because obviously they're going to sell more copies of 5. 5 continues to be in the top 10. Now, I haven't been watching the top 10 on sales, across the board recently, but it's usually in that top 10, top 15, top 20. And again, it's unbelievable that it is, because the game is the highest selling game of all time. And it has been out since 2013 and has seen multiple iterations. But I want to get your thought on the delay. And again, of course, you want to mention, and there are some others that I'm starting to see now that have literally blamed the Xbox Series S for the delay. Folks, that's not what it is, man. I mean, Zelnick himself literally said, we are not worried about the S. I mean, that's the guy, the head of the company. If he's saying that, remember, what he says moves stocks. He's not going to lie to protect Phil Spencer's little baby, in the Series S. He's not going to do that. He can't do that legally. He's got to tell the truth. That's what he does. But let's get your thoughts on the delay and any other additional conversations you want to have regarding it.
All right, I'll start off with the delay. I think we can all agree that this was kind of expected. It was a little unusual for Rockstar to talk about, oh yeah, it should be coming out this quarter or this year or something, from like the conference calls as far as for their projections for the quarter for their stock and stuff like that. It just felt weird. Like Rockstar, I don't think has ever released a game on time, ever. Like I don't think they've ever committed to a date and it actually landed on that date. But I could be wrong. At least with GTA, except for maybe some of the ones that they had on mobile at some time, I don't think they've ever, reached the actual launch date. But great that they announced it now. Some people in the chat made mention of it. Hopefully, maybe we get an update in June about Fable coming this year instead of next year or something, because it kind of felt like that was moved out of the way, possibly for GTA. And I know the rest of the gaming industry is like, whew, dodged a bullet. I mean, we should have known something when Ghost of Yotai picked this random date in, what was it, October or something, I think. So it's like they must have knew then that GTA wasn't landing anytime soon to, go that far out with a date. And we had the thing about Borderlands 4 with them moving up the date. Then it seemed like, well, are they moving it up to make room for GTA? But it's probably slotted where GTA was supposed to be now. But we'll see how that all pans out for Borderlands 4. But as far as the delay, yeah, expect articles blaming the potato. It won't be true, but they have to find a scapegoat. I mean, we've only been waiting 12, 13 years for this game, so we got to blame somebody. That's the thing to do these days. But I'm gonna ask you to put on your tinfoil hats, because I'm thinking this is more of the reason, and giving the date that they gave, why they delayed the game. Are you ready? Tariffs. Guess what? This month, tariffs start kicking in, right?
Yep.
So we already saw Xbox raise the price on the console. We know PlayStation is going to raise the price on the console. That's going to shake up the industry. Do you want to release your game in the middle of when nobody's buying consoles, when you've already said your game is next gen only? So let's think for a minute. There's tons of PS4 owners. There's tons of Xbox One owners. This game comes out and they're seeing a console is $700. Do you think they're going to run out there and buy the game and the console? No. So why release the game in the middle of turmoil? Yes, you're already on next gen. Customers will buy it handily. And there's 75 PS5s out there, and let's say 35 to 40, not 75, but like 75 million plus PS5s. And at least I would say 35 to 40 million, maybe a little bit more, of Xbox Series consoles out there. That's great, but not every person that has that console is going to buy a copy for each console, because a lot of us have multiple consoles. So I have 3 in my household. I'm only buying the game once. I'm not buying it for each console. So it might not be the best prospect, given that these things are going to go up astronomically for a month or two. And then we'll see, what the economic landscape looks like. Give it a year. Because I guarantee you, within a year's time, a lot of these tariffs go away, because either deals will be had or whatever the case may be. But it doesn't make sense to release your game this year, especially when sales are going to probably plummet across the board for hardware when all of them start raising their prices. So if you've already got your series console, good on you. If you don't have one yet and you didn't beat the price hike, hopefully you have a decent computer and maybe get the parts for it in time. Or maybe you got your Switch 2, which I have my doubts on the Switch 2 being able to play this game. I mean, I'll be glad to be wrong, but I mean, they did get Cyberpunk on it and stuff. But we'll see if they even bother putting GTA on the Switch 2. Just because they're already, washing away the PS4 and the Xbox One. So why would you bother with the Switch 2, other than it's going to be a nice player base that may want to play the game mobilely, but I don't know if the hardware is going to be up to snuff. But all of that aside, I think tariffs are the main reason why they delayed. It's not that the game is not done. It's not that the game needed more time. I mean, sure, they could have probably gotten the thing over the start finish line sometime in November ish, but if the industry looks like it's about to head off a cliff, the last thing you want to do is release the most anticipated game that will probably land like a thud because, once again, it's next gen only. And more than half of the player base on both Xbox and on PlayStation are still on the old hardware. That's what I think this delay is. But clip it if you want, bookmark it, whatever. Tinfoil hat aside, I think that's the reason. Nothing else, nothing less, nothing more. But that's my 2 cents on it. And with the whole thing with Ryan McCafferty, it's, Xbox likes stepping on rakes. He likes stepping on rakes just as much. It's like, if Xbox steps on a rake, it seems like he steps on two. But he is who he is. I still don't forgive him for the whole Final Fantasy VII versus the Tomb Raider deal. It's like, oh, it's good for it's not good for the goose if it's good for the gander or whatever the saying is. It just feels like he always finds a way to have egg on his face or just step on that rake. But like I said, that's my thoughts on the whole GTA deal. And bear in mind, I don't think the Pro, no matter what, is going to do 60 frames. So fingers crossed that delay allows them to also release the PC at the same time. Although I have my doubts. This is Rockstar. They've never done it that way. So they're going to try to get you to buy it twice. Remember, they're probably the biggest proponent against dual entitlement that Xbox is trying to push with a lot of publishers. They refuse to do it because they know they can get you a double dip or triple dip or quadruple dip, because a lot of us have bought it on PS3 or Xbox 360. Then we bought it on the following generation. And then some of us even bought it on this current generation and or bought it on PC. So they figure they can get at least 2 copies out of you between console and PC. So
you have bought 10 copies. I'm guaranteeing that your kids bought at least 3 each. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. They
definitely had the Xbox One and the PC copy. And then I think they had the physical copy and the digital copy and a PC copy. So you're right. There's at least 3 for each of them. And then I bought it on PS3, Xbox One, PS4, PC, but I've yet to buy it on the next gen console because PC, initially was better. And then the next gen updates, the enhanced version, they finally gave PC the updates as far as the ray tracing, although there's mods out there for that stuff beforehand. So, but yeah, be prepared for more games that are reliant on next gen hardware to possibly look at postponing their release.
Yeah,
just saying.
So before we move on to the big topic of the show, because this is the big one, but obviously we have the smoke from Microsoft. I want this to be clear. Fuzzy Belvedere is no longer going to be called simply Fuzzy Belvedere. It's going to be for anyone Detective Fuzzy Belvedere, because my God, what a theory and thought. You know what? I'm like this close to it, folks. And that thought never dawned on me. And I think the winner of this conversation is Fuzzy, because he's onto something. Again, we've heard, by the way, Dirk Griggity had a follow-up, podcast the other day, the One Man Dark Man show, which he does is amazing. And he specifically talked about the price increase and everything. And even listening to that, now I'm replaying it in my mind. I'm like, you know what? That Fuzzy's, breakdown is perfect, because there are so many players. I mean, we know for a fact that more than 50% of PlayStation players, I'm talking about the audience of PlayStation, is still on a PS4 or PS4 Pro, right? That's a lot of people. How are these people going to be able to afford a console that is going to eventually go up? And it is going to go up. Danny Pena talked about it. He was on the socials last night talking about it. And when Danny Pena talks, I listen because Danny knows his stuff. I mean, he's in the podcast Hall of Fame for a reason, and the guy is super connected. And I've never seen a tweet from Danny that was half-cocked. Like, opinion piece, throw it out there to get clicks. That's not how he is. I believe him. I believe that there is a price increase coming for the Pro, and I would not be surprised if it moves the Pro to over $800. I would not be surprised at all. But again, we'll see what happens, and we will discuss that when that occurs. or even if it occurs. But I do think that Fuzzy is onto something, simply because how can you expect someone to pay $100 for the next Grand Theft Auto and then go buy a $700 machine today? You can't. Same thing with Xbox. Xbox would have been like, oh yes, but we're gonna sell it on the S, and the S is gonna run great, 30 frames, whatever. Even if it was running at 30 frames, 1440p on the S, that would still be great for a budgeted console. That budgeted console, even though it's not 400, it's 379. It originally was 299, and that's a much bigger buy for someone. Oh, it's $299. Yeah, I can get that Grand Theft Auto. Yeah, $400 gets them in the door. Not so much now. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be very interesting. But gentlemen, before we get into the the big topic of the show, where I have a lot to say about these price increase announcement yesterday from Xbox, I got to thank a lot of people in the chat. We have 8 super chats to get into. The first one comes away from Isaac Hayes 85, who drops a very generous $5 super chat. Isaac, thank you so much for the super chat, brother, and thank you so much for being here. As always, he says, I feel like this is the moment where we as gamers have to unite. Regardless of your box of choice, we have to push back on these corpos, and he's right. He's 100% right. Again, folks, be a fan. There's nothing wrong with fandom. In fact, fandom is amazing to be a part of. It gives me goosebumps because I'm a big nerd when I talk about something that I'm super excited about, right? You hear me say that all the time. But at the end of the day, folks, we got to think about ourselves. We're consumers. We are supposed to come first, not the corporations. And what the path that these guys and gals from the corporations are walking is a razor's edge leading to disaster. Because I'm telling you right now, if you think you're not going to see a massive reduction in spending, you're wrong. You're going to see people. I put it to you this way. If it's not in Game Pass and it's not a game that I'm going to play today when I buy it, I'm not buying it. I don't care who's making it. I'm not buying it. I bought 4 games last year. I don't recall. Dragon Age was one of them. There were 3 others. But I bought the big editions, the $100 editions, early access, this, that, and the third. Do you know, though, I didn't play 1 hour of each of those games? You know who's to blame? This idiot right here. I should not have bought those games because I knew I had too much on my plate. But that is going to stop now because games are going up. Everything's going up. It's great. It's just too much. BT Maverick 707, who's been a channel member for 6 long months, brother. Thank you so much for that. He says, now with the recent price hikes, do you guys think next generation consoles won't arrive until 2028 or the earliest? Thank you guys for the great discussions. That's an interesting thought, man. I don't know if it does. I don't know how long this war with China and everyone else around the world is going to last. I think it's gonna run out of steam soon enough. I think Fuzzy's onto something with the tariffs potentially going away next year. I don't know where Sony is. The rumor is 27. There's even some talk about 28 for the PlayStation 6. There was thoughts and theories to next year for Xbox, but that's not happening until 2027. It's going to be interesting. I don't know if these tariff situation are going to force parts to go up. I would imagine they would. And if the parts do go up in price, maybe they do hold out and wait an additional year. That's a great point, BT Maverick. Thanks so much for supporting the channel, brother. Do UK now, the Broke Boy Insider, not only gifts 5 double barrel game memberships, brother. That is awesome and very generous, if you will. He says this after dropping an additional $2 super chat. He says, no points from me today. Too many panel members. He's afraid to get his points stolen from somebody here, and even I've done it. So sorry about that, Will. But thank you for the generosity, brother. Super appreciate it. We have Brett Bingham in the chat. Drops a very generous $5 super chat. He says, I think Ryan McCaffrey has a severe case of help me. I'm talking and I can't shut up syndrome. What a clown. Yeah, I mean, I just think he wants to get noticed, man. I mean, he does things that are just so off the cuff. And look, folks, I don't know about you, before I press send on a tweet, and maybe it's because I'm a former police officer that worked in community affairs, so of course I always want to be politically correct. I have to be, because I'm the voice and the host of this channel. I have a responsibility to the audience. I have a responsibility to my wife who owns the company. There are things that I have to do as someone that talks for a living, right? So if I'm going to say something, I always read the tweet twice, because there's been times where I haven't done that. And it's not the misspelling, it's something that I did a talk to text that came out wrong that I didn't catch, like a moron, or I wrote something and I'm in the moment and I'm like, yep, I'm not saying that. Delete. Right? He doesn't do that apparently. And he's done this more times than I can count on two hands. And again, it goes right back all the way to what Fuzzy said about the whole, Tomb Raider a bad thing, Final Fantasy is a great thing. Again, he did that. That's out in the ether. This tweet was not any better. Making a declaration of independence to the PlayStation Nation about you bought a PS5 Pro. Congratulations, brother. Good for you. But you have to add all this other subcontext. That tells me that's like, hey, I'm over here. Hey, don't leave me. Right? That's what it looks like to me. And he doesn't need to do that, but he does that more often than not. But you know what? It's his social media account. He can do what he wants. We have Hooks in the chat. Hooks, great to see you here. Thank you so much for the very generous $5 super chat. It says GTA could possibly be delayed to release at the same time as PC. Here's the thing. You're onto something. I know Fuzzy had made mention of that. I know a lot of people in here thought that, but I'm going to tell you this right now. You know why they won't do that? Because you and a lot of people here who have rigs will double dip. And that's what Rockstar likes to do. It will release a year from the day on console to PC, because they are going to really, that's just what they do. They wait and wait and wait, and then they release it on PC, and then on PC it sells gangbuster numbers the same way it did when it was new on console. That's just what Rockstar does. We have Gamer by Choice, been a channel member for as long as the channel has been around, ladies and gentlemen. 67 months. Holy shit, dude. That is unbelievably generous of you. Gamer by Choice, thank you so much, man. He says, I wonder if the delay was in reference to the satire in the game. I could see some administrations taking a negative satire personally, and they may want to review the game's content before release. You know what's interesting? Cancel culture is still obviously a thing. It's not as prevalent as it was a couple of years ago, where if you farted, people were like, "Ooh, that stunk. Get this guy out of here." It's not as, it's there. Cancel culture still exists, and it's Rockstar. Like if there's anything about the writing in Rockstar that they live and die on, it's and they teeter on the edge of the blade. It's with that kind of satire. It's who they are. They don't usually go so crazy that it's like unbelievable, but they've done some things that have been like, whoa, like I can't believe. Like, anyone remember Hot Coffee? Anybody remember that? That was a sexual thing in was it San Andreas? It was San Andreas. Yes, it was. Yeah, it was you had to use the code to get in there. And that was over the line. I'm not going to tell you on the air what Hot Coffee was. Go look it up. You're going to laugh, because it was a thing, and it actually was in the game, but it was so obtuse that they had to hide it. So I think they walk a fine line. I think that this game is going to be really big for the company, so I don't think they're going to cross any lines. Great conversation, though. Dan, the man Cunningham, kind sir, welcome back as always, and thank you very much for the generosity. He drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, the GTA delay all but guarantees $100 price or more if they think they can get away with it. Brother, you are on point with that one for sure. Michael Mooney. Hey, brother. Mike, nice to see you, Brian. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for the very generous £5 super chat. Mike goes on to say, The GTA 6 releasing in 2026 news makes the Xbox generation development kit rumors more interesting, considering the 26-27 release date involved. Yeah, I mean, I'll put it to you this way. And again, this is just speculation on my end. I don't know how far in development that these things are for Microsoft. I will say this: if they are close, they're close on the handheld or the console or both. I am ramping up development to get that console done before this game releases in 26. And I think everyone that has said that it's going to be delayed until October is right. If this is Rockstar's MO. They get a delay, they get a delay. Oh, here it is. I would not be surprised. Now, could you imagine if next year, and again, this is ridiculous speculation. This is like so out there, it's no way it could be true, but it could. If Xbox was able to get their console out, and I don't think that's happening, folks. That is not going to happen. But if they did, could you imagine being able to say the best place to play the Grand Theft Auto 6 is on this box right here, on this handheld? Come on, folks. The idea prints money just thinking about it. So it's an interesting thought, Michael, for sure. Lastly, King Webb. Hey, King, what's going on, brother? Nice to see you here. He drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, $50 for a AA or AAA. We will be winning in this climate. Yeah, I mean, he's right. If you look what happened last week, they, Xbox or Xbox Game Studios dropped $250. Well, they dropped one $50 game, which of course was Oblivion. Of course, Sandfall dropped a $50 Expedition 33, which is expected to be Game of the Year. The game is brilliant. It's so good. It's just, there hasn't been anything. There has not been one thing that I'm like, yeah, they could have touched that up. That game is chef's kiss. And that was a $50 game. Now, you could have bought the $60 one for some extra outfits and some stuff. But if you only had $50, wow, you got your money's worth. There's just no doubt about it. But okay, so we have here, oh, wow, Silent Cypher. And on the panel, he has gifted 5 Double Barrel Gaming memberships. That is very kind of you, brother. Thank you.
I had to pay it forward because I think Brett ended up gifting me one. And generally, if someone accidentally gifts me one and I'm on the panel, I try and kick some forward. So,
well, that's very kind
enjoy.
of you, brother. We appreciate it very much. Thank you so much. Look, ladies and gentlemen, we got to get into the big topic of the show. This one is, every time we hear Xbox, most people, or at least most podcasters, are always wondering when the rake stepping is going to happen. Crispy Bomb has been talking about it for, I would say, weeks. And right now, Xbox, before yesterday's announcement, I don't think they could have missed. Like, they were just hitting and cruising so well. And you got to remember, this isn't just going back to when Oblivion was announced and Shadow dropped, and of course, Expedition 33 in Game Pass. So 2 weeks before that was Blueprints Game of the Year or at least a Game of the Year contendee for indies for sure. They've been hitting on all cylinders with value proposition for Xbox Game Pass. We've been eaten to the point where I'm struggling trying to figure out what game I'm going to play next. And I know that sounds crazy, shame on real world problems, but there's just been a lot of games. And they have been doing right by their consumer. They've been doing right by the, by the press. Even some of the most negative assholes in the press have had good things to say about Xbox. Again, they couldn't miss. And of course, Monday comes along and we get these bombastic numbers from their third quarter, right? And that's why this whole thing that we're going to get into stings the most, because you have to understand the $3 trillion company, right? Where there is no, or the word no for this company, right? $3 trillion company announces that they have personally had for Xbox the best third quarter in the last decade. Think about that for a second, folks. And of course, console sales down 6%. We understand that. The fourth quarter in a row that it's declined. It may even be more than that, folks. I remember 4, it could be 5, it could be 6, hell, it could be 10. But I know that they had another decline in console sales. This is not surprising when you offer Xbox everywhere, right? You don't need a console, but you can play here, there, and everywhere. Okay, awesome. And then Tuesday morning happens, and I am, and like everybody in this community, completely broadside by this rake stepping, asinine announcement. I get why they did it. I'm not a boob. Tariffs, folks, it is costing them 145% more every time a console is made and shipped to the United States, thanks to politics, which we do not get into here, right? Is that going to go away at some point? You'd like to believe so. But to raise consoles to the highest, which is the 2 terabyte Galaxy Black Edition, to $730 before tax is madness. So you say, well, you know what, Boom? They didn't raise Game Pass, and that is the only saving grace from me giving them the finger. Because at least right now, as of this morning at 11:13 on May 2nd, Game Pass is still $20. Now, does that really affect me if they raise it tomorrow? It is not, because I'm paid up until April 5th of 28. Right? I'm good. But if you want new customers, it's going to be hard getting people in at $25 a month, right? Rather than $20, which was raised last year. Now, that, as far as we know, is the only thing that has not moved. And it doesn't look like it's moving this year. But again, it's Microsoft. There's a rake somewhere that they can step on. There's at least 2 or 3 in their offices that they leave there that they step on every day just to whack themselves in the ass or in the face, because that's just what they do. So you ask, how does this affect Boom? Well, ultimately for Game Pass, no. What it will do is I am obviously not upgrading any Series X anytime soon, even if they have a special edition, because I'm not paying that kind of price. I paid after trading in my old original launch Series X and got a nice chunk of money, was able to buy the Galaxy. I think I had to pay like $200, which wasn't bad. But this console was still $599.99, $600 before tax. It's a lot of money. Where this affects me personally is, as you all know, I'm not on the list for Xbox to get controllers. Like, I'm not that big of a channel where they're like, yeah, let's send this guy a controller. Anything that I have gotten like that, I have asked for. And I ask, not because I'm begging, because I collect controllers. I do. Have they sent me any controllers? No, they have not. The only thing that I can say that they sent me, and I'm really, really glad, and shout out to Obsidian for getting involved in this, is the press kit for Avowed, where it came with Luden's mask. I have that, and I'm still pinching myself that they sent that to me. That's one of my favorite games of the year. And that Avowed, personally for me, has replaced Fallout New Vegas as my favorite Obsidian game. And that's saying something if you've been following me for a while. I love New Vegas. Avowed, now number 1. So to have that press kit and be able to display it on my shelf, which you can't see yet, hopefully one day you will, is an amazing thing. But I don't get these controllers. But I have about 60 of them, and every freaking one of them I bought myself. And it's not a problem because I don't want to owe anybody anything, and that's fine. But I don't normally buy like the Arctic Orange with polka dots. I don't give a shit about that. I'll go and I'll buy like my favorite controller, gem of the collection is the Sea of Thieves. Very expensive, very rare. I have the Titan 4 I got multiple Halos. I got multiple Gears. But the pricing on all these things has gone up, ladies and gentlemen. And now it's going to cost a limited edition controller. And it has to say limited edition, which they could do at any time. It's going to be fucking $90. Pardon my French. $90 fucking dollars for a limited edition controller. Holy shit, are you kidding me? Right? So yeah, tariffs, they suck. And I am hoping, like what Fuzzy said about uh potentially, going away or getting fixed conversations and contracts and things, which is government, which we don't talk about on this show. I don't trust government, and I don't know what's going to happen. I'm hoping that if they do revert back to the old ways, that these corporations decide to lower shit back to where it used to be. Because then, and if they don't, we're really going to have a problem. But again, I've talked enough. Again, that's where it personally affects me. I feel really sad for anyone that wanted to get an Xbox. I know there's been a run on them. You go anywhere to buy an Xbox now, it's sold out because the price has not raised as of yet. But Crispy Bomb, I'm going to go to you first, and then we'll go in order. You have some smoke for Xbox on this one, man, and I'm very interested to hear what you have to say, man.
Well, you have so much goodwill, and we talk about all the time with Xbox, like, hey, 50 million players have engaged with this game, or 20 million players have engaged with this game. You would think that they know when they have goodwill. And this is where, look, I'm going to be straight with you. I don't hate people that go, oh, blame Nintendo, blame Sony when they started this, back in 2020. I don't hate it, but I also look at it and say, they're a $3 trillion company. I mean, I remember back in the day, what was the saying? Sometimes you got to spend money to make money. Okay? And you had all the goodwill. Oblivion comes out, amazing. Claire Obscured in Game Pass, amazing. Great games coming out. So then you have the quarter financials, amazing. Better than you would think. And then probably one shareholder or major shareholders like, oh, now we got to raise prices. Why? You can eat the cost. Yeah, your stock's going to drop for a little while. And then all of a sudden you have a bunch of people that get engaged in Game Pass and everything else. Okay? This isn't a Nintendo problem. This isn't a Sony problem. This is a Microsoft problem. I'm not even saying Xbox. Microsoft. Okay? It is unacceptable that you can't just eat the cost for once. Okay? You want to bring tariffs in, everything else? I don't care. $3 trillion company. It is just ridiculous. And then you look at the pricing. I mean, come on. Like $80 more for the OG Series S?
Yep. The
512 gigabyte? $80 more. But wait, there's more. So all the Series S's, different SKUs, $80. Oh, okay. Well, Series X, $100. $100. Oh, wait, you want that 2 terabyte edition? $130. Okay. And then you look at it. I don't know if they're trying to get rid of stock on the Elite Wireless Controller Core 2. It's the same price. So what are we doing here? This is a money grab. And it pisses me off because the only reason why I'm not like super pissed at them is because they haven't touched Game Pass yet. And I say yet because I said this earlier. Don't step on a rake, Microsoft. Don't step on a rake, Xbox. I've been saying that for 2.5, 3 weeks now. You have the goodwill of the gaming community. And you just literally, you not only stepped on the rake, hit yourself in the face, but you crapped on your consumer. You crapped on them because you know what? You can eat the cost. And yeah, you're going to take a little hit in the end when it comes to, the money hats. And they're going to have to eat it because you are in control of this situation. And instead, you probably listen to some stupid mother trucker who's going to sit there and be like, oh, we need to raise the price because we have all this goodwill. That is the dumbest thought process from a company that hasn't sold the consoles. Yes, engagement is up, okay? But you do want to sell the consoles. And yes, unfortunately, everybody that saw it and they left the price for like maybe 12 hours, all of a sudden sold everything out. But that doesn't matter. Why should that be the case? All you had to do was stay pat. Do exactly what you're doing. Make great games. Drop them in Game Pass. Sell them across the board to everyone else. You know, like people paid $80 for Forza Horizon 5 on PlayStation. You didn't need to do anything, and you did it anyway. And it's a terrible thing to watch a company that just can't learn from their own mistakes, and they continue to do it. And this is called insanity. Okay? When you are insane, you think you can do no wrong, and you are not in the position to do so. It is unacceptable to look at other gamers maybe still on a 1. Like the 1X still works in my bedroom. Okay? It still works. Okay? And I also, you know, like people are like, hey, you could stream from it. I guess that's an opportunity now, because I was going to buy a Series S, but now I'm not, because this is just not the way I roll. Yes, I have my Series X. Yes, it doesn't affect me as much as some other people. But if you want to build the brand back up, this is not the way to do it. And it's absolutely ridiculous. And the pricing, you don't know where they're going to go with this. And the worst part is everybody keeps saying tariffs. It doesn't matter with these companies. Okay. The prices have increased across the board throughout the world. It's not just a USA problem, which is where the tariffs come into mind. It is an absolute problem with these companies. And all of them are going to continue to do it until we say enough. Enough is enough. And like I said, I'll give them one credit until they raise the price of that is Game Pass right now. So maybe they're trying to sell you Game Pass through your TV. Like if you're going to invest thousands of dollars, you might as well get a TV that can play Xbox games right off of it. Other than that, like these other companies that are going to rate, I mean, all these stands, by the way, like you're gonna have egg on your face. I'm telling you, Sony don't care about you. Xbox clearly don't care about anybody that's trying to get in the ecosystem. If you're already in the ecosystem, okay, we left Game Pass the way it is for now. But other than that, like anybody that wants to get in the ecosystem, why would you do that? And really, all I'm seeing is a setup for going to what we thought was regular price during the holiday as a sale now. And this is a thought process that I've had for a while in the past day and a half, is that they're setting you up to say, oh, okay, Series S is back to, $299.
Yeah.
And that's all they're setting you up. Yeah. Or they're going to say, okay, you pay this, but you get a game with it. Like, or you get 3 months of Game Pass or something like that. But it's still, it doesn't make sense. Why did you do it now? And the only saving grace, and this is from Xbox, not any other company right now, is what is that June showcase going to show? Because I'm hearing like astronomical thought processes. I'm also hearing that if it's not, then they're going to eat crow. So are they that confident that raising the price this much is going to do something when it hits that June showcase, when actually PlayStation gamers will be watching for games that might come to their console? You're going to have a lot of eyes on it. Do they have that in their backlog, as we'd like to call it? But at the same time, like, you look at it, you're like, if they don't raise Game Pass this year, I mean, I guess it's a win now, because we're looking at this and we're like, What is your pricing thought process? And this is exactly what Nintendo said earlier. Okay, like, oh, it's going to be variable. And what did you say, Boom? You said slippery slope.
Yep.
Okay, it is, and it's ridiculous. And being somebody that just loves the game, Gears, has gotten into the ecosystem, loves the controller, everything else, and to raise the prices the way you did, I mean, you couldn't have went, $20, $40. Like, you couldn't have done that. No, you went 80, 100. Oh, here we go. I mean, it screams some investor, some big investor was like, you got to do this. And they had the power in some way, shape, or form. And then, for all we know, Phil was sitting there like, no, this is not the time, not the time. And everybody else is like, nope, we got to do this. This is important. We got to make more money for our shareholders. And it's just, it's stupid. It's unacceptable. I hate it. I hate it all around. And you're going to see it from any gaming company. You're going to see it from Grand Theft Auto and everything else. I mean, you saw like GameFly raise their subscription right after that. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, this is getting stupid. And we have to be consumers and say, enough is a freaking enough. Some of these digital games, they should not be raised the price. There's no reason for it. It's unacceptable. And I can't understand why they can't get in their head. You can be great if you shut up sometimes, and they couldn't do it. And it's just Microsoft, Xbox, like, I'm going to play on Game Pass. Thank you for that until you do this something else with that. Other than that, I'm really like, I'm appalled at the stupidity. I mean, y'all have degrees and stuff. Like, you can't see through the tea leaves and understand that the consumer might actually like you by the end of the year if you didn't raise the price and then actually buy your console and actually put you in another realm. No, they don't understand spend money to make money anymore. And I think that's going to go for every gaming company at this point.
You're not wrong. Phenomenal point, man. Phenomenal point, brother. Silent Cypher, let's bring you in. Crispy knocked it out of the park. I'm very interested to hear your pointed thoughts because I'm expecting some big stuff. Let's get into it, man.
Right. Well, Crispy and I are probably going to disagree on a few things here. So brace yourself because it will be a little different. But it is sad. I agree. The fact that they had this trajectory, they were successfully crushing it in a lot of ways recently. Things were on a positive upturn for Microsoft. And what did Microsoft do? The thing that they're all so good at. They went and shit the bed once again. As soon as they had an opportunity to have the positive narrative, like a day later, they suddenly kick themselves. It happens every time. Microsoft has an affliction where just the self-inflicted harm happens every time that they
it's like clockwork, brother. Like clockwork.
So here's my thing. I think honestly with the price increase, I think it comes from multiple possible causes. I would argue that there's a lot of things that go into it. One, as of course all of you guys have mentioned already, the political climate. We're not going to go into politics and go super into it, but obviously the person who's in charge right now feels like it's a good idea to add tariffs all over the place. That's going to have an effect on not just gaming. That's going to have an effect on all of our stuff. Anything that has plastic goods, anything that is involved in the pipeline that already exists, we're going to see a knock-on impact. And it sucks because right now, as gamers, we're seeing that impact something that we love as a hobby, as something, a getaway for us from the stress of work and all that stuff. The other thing I'd say with that, and again, I said I vary a little bit with Crispy on this one, but number two, I would say, is competitors getting away with charging stupid amounts for their hardware accessories. If Microsoft sees this, if the competition has laid the tracks for higher pricing, and their fans are feverishly rushing out to give more money to them despite these changes, it's emboldened Microsoft to jump on the bandwagon as well. And that ties into my third point, which is greed, right? Microsoft is just like other companies in the fact that they've had times where greed has led them to make very bad decisions. If you want a great example of it, look back to the Xbox One announcement when Matrick was out there saying, "Oh, you don't like this? Well, we got an Xbox 360 for you. Suck it up, broke boy." Like, it's not a good look. It's a bad decision. And we saw it, and they got the smoke for it. It was not a good situation at all. And it ties into my point above, right? Is like Microsoft sees fans of, and I apologize, Boom, because I know you're a Nintendo guy too. But Microsoft sees fans of like Sony and Nintendo flocking like sheep, willing to just lean over and get railed for the chance to own an overpriced, overhyped, underpowered piece of hardware. And so what's their solution? If the competition's doing it, then Microsoft figures, why not jump on the bandwagon, do the same thing? They have massive content pipeline right now, so they figure they should cash in, charge people as much as they can for these upcoming big releases. It makes sense as a business. It's scummy, but it is what it is. And the thing is, as we've seen time and time again, there's a sizable difference between when Microsoft attempts something like this compared to when the competition does it. Because when PlayStation or Nintendo do this, they're still considered the premium brands. They have a very fervent customer following, and they do better at putting the narrative out there in their marketing. When Microsoft does it, they get dragged through the mud when they make a decision. If Nintendo or Sony does it, everyone's like, well, but it's Sony and Nintendo. It's fine. They love us. No, they're a company. They want to scrape your wallet for every last buck that they can get from you as well. It's just what it is. So yeah, that's kind of where I sit. I feel like it's a multifaceted situation. It's an issue across the board. Microsoft should be very much ashamed of the timing for this, because I feel like it is one of the most tone-deaf decisions to be made recently. It's a bad time. Shouldn't have done it.
Hard to make excuses for the $3 trillion company that literally on Monday posted the best third quarter in Xbox history in the past decade, and then say, well, those numbers weren't enough, charge them more. Again, tone deaf is the perfect. I listen, we don't do the names thing here, so if you have an opinion that I don't agree with in the chat, I'm not going to mention you, because it's not right to do, and I don't never going to embarrass anybody, because that's not right to do. But there are some people in here that are saying that we're spoiled. And you know what? You might be onto something. We're spoiled because we have so many games coming into a service at $20 a month. It's phenomenal. It's a phenomenal deal. You cannot argue the value. The value proposition is just ridiculous. With all of that said, though, it's still hard to understand that on a Monday they announce all of these gains, and on a Tuesday they make this ridiculous announcement. And what's interesting, and I'm going to hand the mic over to Korkenstein, is, folks, I know this is not breaking news, but Xbox is having a hard time selling consoles at the old price. How are they going to sell consoles at the new price? That's the question. I mean, think about that. For even if they get everything in Game Pass from now to December 31st, 2025. They're still having trouble selling consoles. So how does this help their scenario? I don't know. It's a rake step. It's a tone deaf move. It's a bit of a boob kind of a situation, in my opinion. But listen, I don't think I'm spoiled. I understand as a retiree that my pension is great. I have health insurance. I got dental. I got vision. It's awesome. I worked super hard to get it, but it has a ceiling. I know people make fun of me for saying that, but I'm a realist. I run the household here. My salary pays the bills. And I am going to tell you this right now. This uppity pricing on everything is going to change me as a consumer. My consumerism is going to be changed by the pricing because it's just too much. And it doesn't just stop start with video games. I mean, everything is going up. Everything. And I'm not going to get into eggs and cream cheese and bread. That's a reality, but there are other things outside of gaming that are going up, and it's starting to become incredibly overwhelming for the standard regular person. If you're making 6 or 7 figures a year, good for you, man. But not everyone is doing that. And I understand entertainment's the first thing to go, but it doesn't mean that that's the question here, Korkenstein. It's not that they could or should, but they did it because they know they can. That's the freaking problem here, at least in my opinion. Korkenstein has something different to think about. I want to get his hot take on it. Cork, I don't care what side you're on because you're on this panel for a reason. Your opinions matter. Let's get your thoughts on the price increase that really took the industry by storm on Tuesday.
Yeah, let's rewind it back a bit. Xbox isn't a $1 trillion company; they're a $1 billion company. Microsoft is a $1 trillion company. You have to treat these things as two separate entities. Microsoft isn't going to funnel a ton of money into a company that's taking them a loss. That's how a Microsoft now becomes a $1 trillion company back to a $1 billion company. They're not going to do that. So Xbox has to be treated with their own budget, their own, their own way of providing their own income to make Microsoft a $1 trillion company. And that's kind of the dissociative that you have to kind of treat them as two separate entities, even though they're under the same house. So yes, Xbox is a $1 billion company. And this isn't a rake step. Like, honestly, a rake step for me would be Microsoft not having tariffs affect them. And they're like, you know what? Raise the prices. That's a rake step because that's a stupid move that they don't have to make. This is them being forced because of tariffs into making something that they have to do it. And then let's do a little hypothetical here. Microsoft makes about probably $5 billion on average a quarter. And there's 4 quarters. So that's $20 billion they make a year, right? Let's say they ate the costs of the 2 terabyte black console. Which they raised like $250.
It went from $599.99. It was $130. It went up.
Okay, so let's do a little math here. Let's say they sell about 10 million consoles or 10 let me see, about 10 million consoles for that year. So $130 times $10 million comes out to $1.3 billion. So now you're asking them to take roughly about a 7%, about like 6% year-over-year loss on one console. One console, you're asking a $1 billion company that only makes, I'm going to say only, but when you look at it comparatively to what they're actually taking the loss and profit on, you're asking them to take a 7% loss and eat that cost. No company. This is how you bankrupt Xbox. Especially, and that's just one console. Let's say they do games. Now you're looking at a 10% year-over-year loss. You're looking at other things, controllers. Now you're looking at a 13% year-over-year loss because you want them to eat a cost. No company is going to do that. And this is purely because of tariffs. And some people I see, it's a fair point. Why are they raising it across the board? Tell me something. If you were China, what would you do if you had to eat 145% loss to one of your biggest suppliers? Would you A, just keep it to the United States? Or B, would you spread that out to every other country that you can to help subsidize that cost? That's what's happening. China is gonna raise the prices everywhere. And to be honest, Microsoft, the biggest thing the biggest supplier is China for them. Anybody that's ordered a controller sees where that controller comes from, and it's China. or console. Everything I've ordered, I've always checked the tracking, China. And that's just what it is. And it sucks. I mean, Nintendo pivoted and went to Vietnam, which is smart. But they're also, that's only going to last for so long. For me, yeah, and that's why you're wondering why everything is raised across the board. It's just effects. This is why the tariffs are so horrible and why it's dragging everything down around the economy, is because of that reason. And for me, I think a bigger rake step, and this isn't just deflecting to put the focus on PlayStation, but look they were doing this stuff before tariffs even hit. That PlayStation Pro price came out at almost $700, $800 with tax.
Yeah.
For a console that 3%? You were saying the CPU bottlenecks its own GPU.
Yeah.
Where's that excuse?
And people lined up for it.
Yeah. Where's that outrage? Them raising PS Plus. Where's that outrage? That's before tariffs.
That's the media
service.
protecting Sony. That no one said anything. We said something, but the media didn't.
Well, of course, yeah. But I mean, that's a digital service that doesn't even have tariffs affected really by it yet. I'll go into that, why digital's being affected. Yeah, and especially when you look at, and then another rake step for me, this would be the actual rake step for me, is if they raise Game Pass with the console prices being raised. They didn't. And don't get me wrong, Xbox is going to raise Game Pass prices. That's going to happen no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but you got to look at it. Look at the last 7 months that we've gotten: Call of Duty, Indiana Jones, Avowed, South of Midnight. We're getting Doom next month. I mean, we just got Grand Theft Auto, Enhanced, that's being charged $30 on Steam and other platforms. We got that into the service. We got Blueprints. We got Atomfall. We got 33 Immortals. We just got Towerborn. 7 months. And that's not even all the games that we did. And that's at $20 a pop. $20 a month. And they didn't, because they want to give that's something that they can control from their side as a digital asset. But yeah, why did digital games get raised? You got to think. I want to run a little test. I mean, how many of you guys still buy physical on the panel?
No. Unless it's Nintendo, I don't buy physical.
Silent, you buy physical? So everybody here has moved to digital. That's fine. Most people are. A lot of consumers aren't. I think one analyst, was it Matt?
Matt Piscatella was talking about it the other day with Greg Miller. Yeah.
Yeah. That a lot of people are still on physical media. A lot of places can't, don't have the infrastructure or don't have the ecosystem yet to move to an all digital platform. And that's where the issue happens. Let's just do hypothetical. If you guys were physical buyers, correct? And you could save 20, what's that?
Cork, it's not physical anymore. Like these games are too large. They have to be downloaded.
To a certain extent. A lot of it subsidizes, or a lot of it is saved on the disc. You do have stuff, but it does help people that aren't on internet. You're not downloading a 200, gigabyte file straight away, rather maybe 100. It cuts it in half, and it helps push that with it. If you've ever done anything, usually most of the stuff that I've done, it's not as big as comparatively.
Most of the games have a lot of trouble being played without internet.
They just can't be played. The disc is literally an authentication check.
If you are multiplayer, yes. On single player games, no. A lot of the stuff that is put on those CDs.
A lot of those are the same at this point too. It's
not as much. It saves the consumer from having to put, rather than having to download 30 gigabytes, they only have to download 15. It saves in that aspect. I could pull out any disc right now and see what's actually on it, and you'd be surprised at how much info is actually on it. Yes, you still need, but not everybody can upgrade to every country to a all digital internet ecosystem. That's just not feasible right now. Not every country has the infrastructure.
I do see what I do see what you're saying, but at the same time, even with single player games, most of them are locked behind an update that you have to get before you can even play the game.
100%, but it's not as steep as just going straight in. That's what the physical disc helps with. It helps eliminate that need for a very large download comparatively to physical or to digital, where like Call of Duty's 120 gigabytes. You know, you can see what the CD has, even if it's 30 or 40 gigabytes on the CD to help. That still helps a lot comparatively to places that don't have an all internet structure. But let's just do hypothetical. You buy physical, correct? How many of you would switch to digital if you could save $20?
Probably most people.
You would effectively be killing physical media. And don't get me wrong, it's out the door. It's 1 foot's already out the door with physical
I mean,
media.
everywhere you go now, you go to Target, you go to Walmart, you go to any of these big chain
Yep.
stores, they don't carry physical games. They have what's left, but they're not getting any new ones.
Yep.
They've already made
Physical's
that
already
announcement.
Yeah, physical's already out the door for the most part. But again, you don't want to push it out the door before you can have systems in place to help subsidize that physical loss. Because again, like I said, a lot of places aren't ready for an all digital ecosystem or an all cloud system or whatever it is. United States is very lucky. A lot of first world nations are very lucky to have an internet structure. A lot of third world, not so much. And those are a very important part of consumers, especially for those that want Xbox to branch out to more places and support more countries. If they didn't raise digital, most people would, or if they didn't raise digital, most people, they might be asked out. If they have to be forced into a digital ecosystem they're not ready for, they can't support. Not because of their own or not because of their own economy, but because of their own infrastructure with the internet. That's the thing. You don't want to phase out physical before it's time. And dynamically pricing digital, that would happen because people would have to be forced to go into digital to play something. I doubt they would be paying the extra $20, like I said, for physical if they didn't have to, when they could get digital. So that's the thing. Putting digital, dynamically pricing digital would kill physical within a year or two. It's already out the door, but you don't want to push it out the door before it's ready. That's how you lose consumers. And for me, am I upset? Yeah, I'm definitely upset. I don't like price raises. I like keeping my money. I definitely do. But I understand why all of this is happening, and that's why I'm not outraged for it. Am I sad about it? Yeah. Am I upset? Sure. Am I outraged? No. This is par for the course. This is what happens. I'm going to try and come from a place of understanding. And I don't think it's, like I said, a bigger rake step would have been if they priced Game Pass. That would have been a rake step if they raised the Game Pass with everything else. They don't need to, though, right now. Will they? 100%. But I don't know. I'm not outraged by this. I'm upset because, yeah, I want to keep my money. But when you actually look at it and you try and understand why this stuff is happening, what's going on, and the reasons behind it, it makes sense. Even though it sucks for us as consumers, there's really no choice. And we're just going to have to eat it or get out of gaming. Gaming shouldn't be an elitist hobby. But because of the current economy, it's becoming one. And that sucks for us.
That sucks for the common folk because again, entertainment's the first thing to go for anyone that is having difficult time doing the most mundane things like, I don't know, pay the rent, pay your electric bill, put food on the table. So if you can't do those things, obviously gaming, if you're buying the games and you're not in the service like Xbox Game Pass, you might have to step aside. Now, you mentioned earlier about the, what if they sold 10 million, units, they would take this massive loss. That's the problem, though. See, last year they sold 2.7 million consoles. That was it. So I understand that, if they sold this many consoles, they're going to take a loss at these current tariff prices. They couldn't sell the console at the old price, and now they're asking these ridiculous prices. No one is going to buy these consoles if there are any left, because there was a run on them yesterday. Now, someone had said in the chat that the prices are now in place, and they're currently, that's what the price is. But the console on all forms, both Series S's, all three of the X, the digital, the 2 terabyte, they're all sold out. So people ran and bought them, so they might see an increase, but I don't know if they're going to get any made, and maybe this was for them to get rid of the stock. I don't know what the end game is. At the end of the day, we understand why they did it, right? It's easy to understand that the tariff situation, where China is charging 145% for anything coming into the Americas, we get that. I just think that ultimately it's a really super bad look coming off of all of the goodwill that they had. And even though I am, outrage would be a word that I wouldn't really equate with me. Am I disappointed? 1,000%.
Yeah.
Because again, I think that they had all this goodwill, and we're rolling into the June showcase where it's expected to be the best show, even better than last year, which is hard to imagine or believe. But I mean, listen, you're entitled to your opinion. I do disagree with some of it. But again, you are, an important part of the show, and you don't have to always agree. And I'm glad that we don't all agree, that we're just not a bunch of yes men. But before we get on out of here, folks, we do have one more panel member to get his thoughts, and that is Fuzzy Belvedere. Fuzzy, again, there has been some really finite, interesting, and thought-provoking points from everybody on the panel. And I love that we're having this conversation. People in the chat are being respectful and going back and forth with. Some people agree, some people don't agree. That's great. That's why we're here. We're here to have a conversation, but I'm interested to hear yours.
All right. So I'll start off from my personal standpoint on the pricing. Kind of much like you said just recently, Boom. I'm kind of disappointed. I would have hoped that they would have outweighted their competition, because they are in that position with the amount of their parent company to outweight them to see how far Sony goes. And then with the second run of the Switch 2, how far that might go as well. So the fact that I already have my Series S and Series X, I even sold one of my Series X's to get my Quest 3 months ago. I still have 2 Series S's, and I was considering possibly trading it in at least one of them after the fact, because I use the one Series S for travel. Now I'm probably going to just hang on to them for right now. But it is disappointing, especially considering like what everybody said. They had the goodwill. They had this tear with Game Pass as far as dropping game after game after game. Highly anticipated, highly rated games. And it doesn't seem like there's any slowdown in that for the remainder of the year or for the next 3 years for that matter. So I'm lucky that I have until 2028 as far as my subscription stacked. I recommend everybody try to use as many Microsoft rewards points towards it. They did up the monthly. I think it went from 12,000 to 17,000 for Game Pass Ultimate. So I kind of knew pricing was looking to be raised at some point. But all of that being said, I just want to touch on one thing as far as how the pricing is set in comparison to what the tariffs are. And granted, the tariffs haven't kicked in before the price hike, and they haven't gone up as high as they probably should, at least in the States. So it was raised globally to kind of, soften the blow. I don't like it either way you look at it, but let's just look at things like the Series S is a $300 item. They're already kind of losing money on it, considering the tech inside is worth more than $300 because of the system on chip that's inside. But all of that aside, they've set a $300 retail price originally. That means there's probably somewhere around 15% margin in there. So that means a cost to a Best Buy, a cost to Walmart or whomever is $255 for that item. Now looking at the tariffs, where that cost is kind of the thing that the tariffs looks at, that becomes, what did I rate it at? $369.75. That's what Best Buy, Walmart, and all those other places would have to now buy that console for. So making it $380 makes sense. I don't agree with it, but that's the way it is if you do the full 145% with it being made in China. Now, some consoles are made in other places, depending on the region and distribution aspect, but a majority of what comes to the U.S. is the ones that are coming from China. That being said, that price hike had to happen. But once again, with them being a $1 trillion company, or at least their parent being a $1 trillion company, they probably should have waited until Sony pulled the trigger. they've been pulling the trigger as far as raising prices of the controllers and other things, globally, as well as the controllers, in the US. They've avoided raising the console prices in the US until the Pro came out, which for that 3% bump, or even if you look at it as a 40% bump over the PS5, is that really worth the price hike in comparison? The numbers are a little off. Like if you were really a 40% bump over the PS5, it should be a bit cheaper, especially considering it doesn't come with a drive and it doesn't come with a stand. But all of that stuff aside, expect pricing to go up over there as well. Expect Switch 2 pricing to go up in the second run. But this is one thing that Microsoft definitely stepped on a rake where they could have waited or outweighted their competition. They did do what I would say is a reasonable job as far as distributing that tariff hike across globally and not as much to the US. But even still, I'm not going to ask them to eat the tariffs, but I'm also going to ask them to use common sense. Like, if you're always going to be the first one to take the arrows, and then you wonder why you're having a hard time, selling hardware and stuff, sometimes you should probably just sit on your hands. Because a lot of times we've heard in the past how Sony would sit on their hands at like E3 when it comes to a console announcement of launch, just to see what Xbox does, see what their pricing might be or whatnot. This would have been a perfect time for them to kind of sit on their laurels. They just had an amazing quarter for their shareholders. That would be a thing where, hey, you don't have to push that button to increase the pricing. And the shareholders that are probably like, yeah, we should probably raise the price, probably should have looked at the grand scheme of how that department or how that wing of Microsoft was doing, where this would not be the time. Wait for the competition to do it. Because it's not like you're coming to the industry first with something. That would be a time you want to beat the competition with the next generation hardware or something to that effect, or maybe a handheld. But the hardware price, yeah. If anything, I think they would have been better suited to wait until that hardware, like the partnership with ROG, was announced. Once that's fully announced, then, hey, by the way, we have to raise the price on other things. Because by that point, I'm pretty sure that billion-dollar company over there, Sony, PlayStation and everything, would have already raised the price. So that would have given you ample time to say, well, they're only taking and marking up the price another, 50% as opposed to 145% on PS5. So let's do the same, distribute it across the globe, make sure we do a little bit of a softer blow to the US in comparison. So we're still, either dollar for dollar price wise, or maybe $5 under, just to be that much more appealing, at least from a hardware standpoint. Yes, that's not your strongest suit, but they could have done better in that sense as far as either delaying the price hike or adjusting it based on what PlayStation and Nintendo might do. But yeah, it's never a good thing. It's almost like you feel like every time you're having a good time with Xbox, oh, the games are great, or this hardware is great. It's almost like they find a rake to step on, or it's like a hold my beer situation where they all of a sudden want to squash all that goodwill that they've had or all that momentum that they have, and then kind of throw it in the toilet. And they seem to repeat themselves on that on a regular basis. But for me, I had no intention of buying a new Series X or Series S anytime soon. I'm waiting for the next hardware. But then it has me a little nervous now, considering, the one console is getting ready to be 2 years old and the other console is like a little over a year old. I know consoles should last, 5 years plus, if anything, but to ever have to replace those, knock on wood, I don't have to. That's where it's going to get tough. But then again, that's going to be the case for anything. A video card for my PC, or, my PlayStation 5, if it should go kaput with that, liquid metal, and I keep it, vertical as opposed to the suggested horizontal, who knows what that replacement cost is going to be down the road. But yeah, it sucks all around. Tariffs, I would say, are a big part of it on the hardware side. The software side, I don't want to take up too much time on this one. The software side of things should not be adjusted until inflation is adjusted, yep. Because the actual software should not fall under the tariffs at all. Like it's yes, it's a service, but it's not in a sense where a lot of the studios aren't in particularly well. If you look at it from the standpoint, okay, Rare is in the UK and Playground Games is in the UK. they make the game, it's digitally on a server somewhere in the US. Does it count to get a tariff from the service as far as what UK tariffs would be? Or should it just be based off what it being on the servers on stateside cost would be? There shouldn't be any tariffs that pass through that naturally. Now, when everything goes up, whether it be eggs, coffee, gas, whatever, then maybe I can see a price hike. But this $80 thing, if you want to blame Nintendo, I hear you. It just feels like for years we've been hit over the head with digital prices being the same as physical. And I'm not going to get into the whole physical and digital stuff because I, thought early in this generation that we only had a couple of years of physical left. Look at PC. They haven't had physical other than limited run stuff for what, 15 years now. So it sucks all around. But this isn't the end of it. I say the end because I don't think we're going to have another ET moment or gaming crash, but I do think it's going to wind up being something where we're going to value the indies that are still charging 50 or maybe even 60 for their games, as opposed to the AAAs charging 80 plus. I think this is going to be a time where people are going to have to get, comfortable with their old hardware. It sucks, I guess, for those still on PS4 and Xbox One. They're just going to have to, hold on to those longer. The Xbox One crowd may not be so bad. If you have Ultimate, you can stream the next gen games on that hardware. So that is somewhat of a benefit. But at some point, that's going to get annoying as far as maybe the artifacting or the choppiness in some cases. But be prepared to buckle down. Like until China backs down, which I don't think they are, we're going to see a lot of stuff that has been made over there cost us more. And as far as for those that are like, well, just make it here. If we don't have the foundries for the chips, what good is building it here if they still have to get the chips from over there to come here to put in the box?
Yep.
So as somebody that's been in the auto industry, I've seen the offshoring of the industry in a lot of cases. And the thing that's funny to me is how prices on cars have gone up astronomically after COVID. So it's almost like the auto industry is up for a crash and they brought it on themselves before the tariffs even really take effect. So that's on them. And it looks like the gaming industry might be making a similar mistake, but we'll see. All I know is Microsoft rewards points. Get your console or get your hardware that way. I know a few people that saved up for like 3 or 4 years worth of their Microsoft rewards points to pick up a Series X recently. I encourage people to do the same. Make those rewards points pay off for you in the long term, or in the short term, I should say. But man, this sucks all around. I can't defend it for $1 billion company, let alone $1 trillion company. It makes no sense. But then again, we can ask them to reduce the price. We can also ask, our Congress people or Senate to take their actual responsibility on enforcing tariffs as opposed to the executive branch. But politics aside, that's all I got on it, because it just makes me more mad the more I talk about it. So it is what it is.
Listen, again, this was an amazing conversation. We went a lot longer than I originally thought. I told the guys, hey, we should be out of here in 90 minutes. But you know what? The one thing about Double Barrel Gaming and its podcast, which we do 5 days a week, is they're conversational shows where we don't. I mean, I write a script kind of to the point where I know what we're talking about, especially when it comes to dates, names, things of that nature. But what we say is off the cuff. It's from shooting from the hip. And everyone did an amazing job. Again, some opinions I agree with, some opinions I don't. But you know what? That's what makes these shows fantastic, is that we can have a conversation and still be brothers at the end of it. And the chat was amazing. We had almost 700 people here. Folks, again, I haven't checked recently. Let me just for shits and giggles, let me see where we're at in regards to subs. We are still about 106 away. Folks, I'm going to drop the link in here. Yeah, actually, we're 110 away, which is, not terrible. But if I saw a lot of new names here. If you are finding the channel for the first time, please consider subscribing. Mrs. Boom and I would greatly appreciate the help to get to 16K. And like I said, we do this Monday through Friday, 5 days a week. It's all great content, all different panels with great members of the panel. We invite new people in on a regular basis. So if you are, having a good time and you are, looking for a new podcast to listen to, there's the link, folks. Just give it a a copy and paste, and shoot me a sub. I would greatly appreciate it. But look, we do have one additional super chat to get to, and then we're gonna get everyone out of here so you can start your Friday. JJ saying 117 drops a very generous $5 super chat and says, not to be political, but if Xbox consoles are sold out, then we will have shortages too. Parts are slowing down. I mean, I don't know how many. It's interesting because I don't know if Microsoft is pushing the production pedal to the metal, so to speak. Because, like for instance, there were a couple of weeks, even though they showed up 6% down in console sales, that you couldn't find a console. As a matter of fact, that actually happened because when you go to GameStop and you trade in 10 games, what do you usually get? You get 10 cents, right? That's usually what it is with GameStop. But Hargeet just traded in a Series X that he had in his guest room, and he got $420 for it. Folks, he paid $350 for it on sale. He made money, which is crazy, right? So right now, the Series X and the Series S are getting top dollar. The Series X is actually getting more money than the PlayStation 5, like right now. So if you have a spare one and you want to buy like the Switch or something, you don't want to spend money, that's probably a good way to do it for sure. But look, again, phenomenal conversation. I loved everyone's points. Again, I didn't agree with everybody, but that's why we have these shows, because we can come here, we can levy our opinions, we can hang out with the chat, and we can have a great conversation. I think that is exactly what we did here today. Let's get everyone out of here. And we'll start first with Crispy Bomb. Brother, sell the brand. Where could people find you on social media, potentially get the crispy truth, and more importantly, brother, what else you got going on?
I just want to reiterate what you said. Like, at the end of the day, like, this is a conversation. I mean, we don't all get together at times, and I think it's amazing that we don't scream at each other and act like a bunch of fools in front of hundreds of people. At the end of the day, like, I wanted to scream at you, Cork, a couple times, but at the same time, I'm like, you know what? You have some great points, and I think that's the whole point of doing the podcast. We have a good conversation. So it's at Chrisbomb on X, Chrisbomb28 Xbox Live. You can find me wherever I am. Usually somewhere on BoomStick's channel, wherever I may show up, as I like to say.
Well, we appreciate you being here. Shout out to Coach Canuck, who's been a channel member for a baker's dozen, 13 months, brother. Thank you so much for the support, Coach. He says, I had a feeling GTA 6 would be delayed. Guess lots of people's bubbles got busted today with this news for it releasing in 2025. I saw this coming. Yeah, we're not going to mention who got a little bit of egg on their face, but this is what happens when you play with egg. Sometimes it just falls on you. Silent Cypher, let's sell the brand of the Xbox International podcast, and more importantly, where else people can find you on other shows and follow you on social media, kind sir.
All right. Well, thanks for having me. As always, Korkenstein, Fuzzy, Crispy, Boom. It's been great. I always enjoy these times, and I'm only here once every other week. So if you get tired of me, just give it a week or so. I'll wear down, and then it'll be like you forgot all about whatever stupid thing I said the next time I come here. But no, it was great chat. You guys were awesome. Good conversation. Obviously heated for all of us because, of course, this is a passion for us. This is hobby. We love it, and it sucks when things go down like this. I don't think anyone's happy about it, and hopefully things will get better. But as far as where you can find me on Wednesdays when my schedule allows on Xbox International Podcast at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can also catch me here every other Friday morning hanging out with these wonderful gentlemen. And then catch me on Friday evenings on Ferocious Fee's channel, Fright Night at Ferocious Fee. And yeah, we're going to be talking Getaway this evening. So Fuzzy will mention more about that, of course. But Interesting one. If you haven't seen it, you can still access it. I think it's Amazon Prime through AMC Plus. So if you have it, check it out. Come hang out with us this evening. It should be a good conversation for sure. Besides that, just catch me social media pretty much everywhere except for Twitter on at Silent Cipher.
Nice. Well, great to have you here as always, brother. Can't wait to you return in a couple of weeks. But of course, let's continue with the outros. Korkenstein, let's sell the brand, brother. Obviously, you did a really big deal with the fine folks at Sandfall Interactive. Obviously, they have made one of the most recognized games of 2025. It is tied for the best Metacritic score. As a matter of fact, it has one of the best fan scores ever. And of course, that is Expedition 33, folks. If you're not playing this game, this is the type of game that you have to run out and support. Like me, I got it in Game Pass, of course, but I went and bought the game because I wanted to support the developer. They're a small team. This game was made of 30 people. You gave away a custom console thanks to them, brother. And of course, let's find out what else you got going on with the podcasts. And more importantly, where could people find you on the socials?
Whoops. Thanks for having me on, guys. I really do appreciate it. Like I said, there's so much great conversation here. Not everybody agrees, and that's fine. That's 100%. I always try and come from a place of understanding. It's easy to be angry. It's easy to be outraged. It's easy to be negative. It's hard to understand. So that's where I always come from my stuff. I want to come from a place of understanding, and I respect all of you guys for letting me do that on this podcast. We had such a great convo. And difference of opinion. Some things, like I said, I didn't agree with, but now I do because of you guys. And that's what the whole point of this show is. And that's all thanks to Boom and you guys coming on in the community. Where you guys can find me is on, I'm on every social. Just look up the Korkenstein. You'll find me on every platform, whether it's Blue Sky, Threads, or Twitter. We also, we did a big giveaway on the Xbox Series X subreddit through via Xbox Talks. Yeah, Kepler and Sandfall hooked us up with a really awesome console. That is now over with. We're now looking at our next big thing to give away, hopefully. So we'll see what the next big things coming up. Game Pass Gumbo, one of our hosts is still kind of fixing his house from the crazy storms that hit a while back, and he has a lot of real life stuff, so we're kind of putting that on hold for the next week or two, but we will have our big year show hopefully coming up soon. I'll let you guys know more about that, but thank you to everybody.
Thank you, brother. Super appreciated. We can't wait to hear what you're working on next. Obviously, the work that you do in the community is amazing, and he's done some fan-freaking-tastic giveaways. And of course, we'll sit by and wait for the next one. Fuzzy Belvedere, let's sell the brand, of course, of you, which we're trying to get you to 1K this year. And it'd be a really big deal for folks if you can help them get them. We got to get them to 500 to start. So drop your link into the chat. Let people support Fuzzy Belvedere on his YouTube channel, which, of course, is the best place for anything and everything in the racing genre. And, of course, with the update and release of Forza Horizon 5 on PlayStation 5, you should definitely tune in to hear his thoughts and theories. But it's not just his channel we're selling, ladies and gentlemen. We're selling his wife's channel as well, because if you are a horror nut like me and Mrs. Boom, you're going to want to tune in to Fright Night with Ferocious Fee, Friday evening, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where they talk about B movies, C movies, and sometimes even G movies, because, that's just the way it is. Sell the brand, brother. Where can people subscribe to both YouTube channels and follow you guys on social media?
Well, as always appreciate being on here. Love having this conversation with you guys as far as when it comes to this industry we all love, as far as gaming and everything that comes along with it, the good and the bad. Hopefully things work themselves out and we continue to get these great games for years to come, and hardware becomes less of an issue. But all of that stuff aside, everybody in the chat, don't forget, one, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. We greatly appreciate the support. But attack your backlog. Like right now, as things go, your backlog is probably your best friend, just for the fact that you don't have to necessarily get new hardware to play it, and you can just have all the time in the world to kind of, finish that out. Hopefully we don't see too many $80 games here, and Hopefully subscription services don't go up any further than what they already are. But life is life. Have fun with family. Have fun with gaming. Be safe out there. And I put the links for both my channel and my wife's channel in the chat. Me and Cypher, as well as Presto and my wife, will be on the Fright Night with Ferocious feed later tonight. We'll be talking about Getaway, like Cypher said. I thought it was a pretty good movie. Some people might have some other thoughts, but it's definitely one worth watching. Like Cypher said, if you have Prime and AMC, it's definitely one to check out. Tonight, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Once again, I'll put the link back into the chat as well. Come hang out with us, have some fun, listen to our takes on the movie. I'm pretty sure we'll have a heated discussion on that just as much as we've had for gaming. So take care, everyone. Have a safe and happy weekend, and hope to see you guys back here Monday for Xbox Lunch Break Special, 12 noon.
Thank you so much. Thank you, brother. Super appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in and checking out the show. This is one of the longest shows we've had in a while. Pause. And of course, you know what? We love being here. When we have these kind of conversations where they are, I don't want to say use the terminology long-winded. I think that this is a conversational podcast, and certain topics deserve to be discussed quickly and we move on. Others need to be discussed where there are finite details and points of contention that need to be brought out so it makes sense. And everyone did such a great job here today. In the chat, we love you guys. We wouldn't have a show without you. Truth of the matter is that if there's no one to watch the show when it goes live, then we're here just talking to ourselves. And even then, it would still be fun because it's hanging out with your brothers. And, you know, again, with your family, you're never always going to agree, but we can all walk away and still be brothers. And that's what we did here today. And I love it. And I love you guys and gals for tuning in and hanging out with us on a Friday morning. And of course, a big thank you to all of the super chats and channel member chats that continue to come in to support the channel up front and behind the scenes. Because again, a lot of that money is used for, you know, keeping up with the Joneses, with the programs and the equipment we need to run the show, as well as the big giveaways. And we have 3 big ones happening towards the end of the year, like we do every year. And as we get into the fall, we'll break those, you know, we'll give the details of exactly what we're doing and what we're giving away. But of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And he would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. Have a great weekend. Enjoy gaming on whatever console you enjoy gaming. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom. Gentlemen, apologies for going